In 1987, Luis Garcia was born just south of Mexico City, Mexico, into a family of 6. Specifically, his hometown in Mexico is Cuernavaca, the capital of the state of Morelos. Growing up, he lived his life just as any other child would, attending his local elementary school, playing soccer with friends, and swimming in the river near his home. However, his story of acquiring the literacy he has today is truly one of a kind. From childhood in Mexico to adulthood in the Arkansas Ozarks, Luis has encountered many sponsors of literacy along his way. His parents both completed their education through junior high school. At that time, a high school education was rather uncommon due to the economic situation in the country. While elementary and junior high were free, a high school education came at a price. The education system is still set up this way in Mexico, but Garcia says more families are willing to pay for this now because without a high school diploma, job opportunities are slim to none. His parents, though, were both able to find work, his mother in a factory where they made tortillas, and his father as a welder. He recalls his father being very good at his job, often drawing up his own designs in a notebook and making his clients' ideas come to life. Luis, in turn, developed this creativity for craftsmanship and today enjoys woodworking and creating projects in his workshop at home. Luis's mother placed a high value on the importance of education, and Garcia remembers her telling them that they were going to read. They sometimes went to their local public library to check out books, and Luis would also borrow books from his second-grade teacher's classroom. He remembers one book in particular that he would read to himself as a child, entitled El Principito, in English, The Little Prince. The illustrations sparked his interest because they made the book so easy to understand. His mother was more into reading the Bible, but he found that wasn't something that intrigued him, as he would much rather be stimulating his imagination and fantasies. His mother and father also played a large role in sponsoring writing in Luis's life. His earliest memories of writing are at home with his family, where he would write letters to relatives in Mexico and the United States. All 6 of his family members would stuff their letters into one envelope and send them off together. When Luis was 13 years old, he moved to the United States with an older brother and sister. He would be able to attend public high school for free here, so he continued his education. They settled in Springdale, Arkansas, and though access to education was more attainable, he struggled to perform on par with his fellow classmates. Literacy and place are highly related to one another, and the main reason Luis had such a hard time learning his first few years here was the language barrier. He was enrolled in English second language classes, but he recalls feeling like he was a child in first grade again. The classes began with the basics, forming just 2-word sentences. Sometimes Luis would come up with stories on his own as a more engaging way of learning the language. After some time working on his pronunciation and the English ABCs, Luis felt more confident in the classroom. He credits his 10th grade English teacher with helping him succeed in school by remaining patient with him when he was struggling and giving him extra help perfecting his writing. The hardest thing for him was teachers throwing information at him, not taking the time to make sure he understood, so her patience made a huge impact on his learning. Educators should take this into account when working with students, especially those in Luis's situation, but any struggling student in general. Working closely and providing one-on-one time to students who need a little extra help could be the positive turning point in their education. Technology was another promoter of his acquisition of literacy that he had access to in the United States. He became very intrigued by computers and even aspired to be a computer technician when he grew up. Any chance he got, he would type up his schoolwork instead of handwriting it, and he loved spending time after school in the computer lab. This technology provided supplemental learning for Luis even when using it for purposes aside from school. This extra time typing and surfing the internet was a great way for Luis to broaden his horizons of American language and culture. After graduating from Fayetteville High School, Luis spent time working in construction and was a waiter and bartender for a while, but found he wanted to continue his education to pursue a career in technology. He made the decision to attend Northwest Technical Institute full-time, but his first impressions of college were somewhat apprehensive. He was under the impression that college was only for smart people and those who really loved learning. He considered dropping out his first semester, feeling like everyone around him had more knowledge of what they were studying, but a professor urged him to stick around because the second semester would be much more hands-on. At the same time, he encountered someone else who put his reservations about college into perspective. One day, he was walking around campus when a girl came out of a nursing exam crying because she knew she had failed. He related this back to his own situation and realized not everyone in college knows exactly what they are doing all the time, and that was okay. He knew then that sticking with his decision to go back to school would pay off in the long run. The hands-on curriculum really did improve his class performance and his desire to learn. The style of teaching allowed him to collaborate with classmates and absorb their knowledge as well as his own. He was going the extra mile outside of class, reading and studying to learn as much as he could. He graduated with his technical degree and even with honors from NTI, and now works as a computer technician for the Springdale government. Luis's job requires him to have extensive technical knowledge of hardware and software on computers, and he says NTI prepared him very well for this. Day to day, he uses his literacy to fix issues with computers and the internet network, and he writes reports over every case he works on. Along with this, he stays up to date on technical jargon as it evolves just as quickly as the technology itself. Luis Garcia's story should be used by educators to improve teaching styles in multiple areas. As an immigrant from Mexico in the United States, he struggled to actually utilize the education opportunities provided for him because of the language barrier. Those who come from other areas of the world bring with them their different cultures, backgrounds, and languages that cannot simply be brushed under the rug. His 10th grade teacher had the right idea when she spent extra time with him, making herself available to consult whenever he needed help. The way in which information is presented to students has a strong impact on how they understand it as well. In Luis's case, reading straight from a textbook wasn't beneficial to his learning because the language and context was unfamiliar to him. There are so many other ways to teach than directly from the textbook, such as group projects, through multimedia, or hands-on participation, which all show a subject in a new light that may change the way a student understands it. Ultimately, Luis Garcia was able to successfully rise through the education system despite the struggles he faced when he first moved to Arkansas. His story, however, can be used as a reference point to broaden the horizons of curriculum and instill the values of patience and thoughtfulness in educators in order to alleviate those struggles in students today. The Arkansas Ozarks is an area fortunate enough to be filled with people from regions all over the world. By taking these ideas into consideration, each one of those people can be offered the proper environment and tools they need to flourish in this place that we all call home.